The wedding reception was supposed to begin in 30 minutes. 400 guests were waiting downstairs. The champagne had already been poured. The musicians were warming up. The cake stood beneath a wall of white flowers. And Claire Bennett was supposed to be the happiest woman in the building. Instead, she was standing alone in a hotel room, staring at her fiancé's empty side of the bed. Daniel was gone. His suit was still hanging beside the window. His shoes were beside the bed. His phone was charging on the nightstand, and his wedding ring was sitting on the dresser. Claire picked up the ring. Her fingers trembled. Daniel? There was no answer. She checked the bathroom. Empty. The hallway. Empty. She called his phone. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Then she noticed something she hadn't seen before. His suitcase. It was sitting beside the wardrobe. Claire stared at it. Daniel had packed it himself that morning. She remembered teasing him about taking too many shirts for one night. Now the suitcase looked strangely untouched. Claire slowly knelt beside it. She opened it. Inside were shirts, a pair of trousers, his passport, cash, wedding documents. Everything appeared normal. Then her hand touched an envelope. It was hidden beneath a folded shirt. Claire pulled it out. Her name was written across the front. Claire Bennett. Her heart began beating faster. She opened it. A single document fell into her hands. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at. Then she saw her name, Claire Bennett, her date of birth, her address, her identification number, and beneath all of it, a date. Claire stopped breathing. The document was a death certificate. Her death certificate. The date of death was 3 days from now. Claire stared at it. No. She looked again. Maybe she was reading it wrong. Maybe someone had made a terrible mistake. But there was no mistake. Her name was there. Her information was there. And the document appeared completely authentic. Claire's hands began shaking. Then something else caught her attention. In the bottom corner of the certificate was a handwritten code. B-17. What is B-17? She whispered. Before she could think about it, another object slid from the envelope. A photograph. Claire picked it up. Her face went pale. It was a picture of her, sleeping, in her own bedroom. The photograph had clearly been taken from inside the house. Claire recognized the curtains, the bedside lamp, the small painting above her bed. Everything. Someone had stood inside her bedroom while she slept. Someone had been watching her. Someone had planned her death. And now Daniel was gone. Claire stumbled backward. Her phone slipped from her hand. She picked it up and called the police. 20 minutes later, Detective Marcus Cole entered the room. He was in his early 40s, calm and observant, with the kind of face that revealed almost nothing. He looked at the suitcase, then at Claire, then at the death certificate. Where did you find this? In his suitcase. Daniel's suitcase? Claire nodded. He disappeared. When? About 40 minutes ago. Did you see him leave? No. Did you argue? No. Was he acting strangely? Claire hesitated. He was nervous. Nervous about what? The wedding. Cole looked at her. Did he say anything about leaving? No. Did he say anything about you being in danger? Claire looked down at the photograph. No. Then she whispered. He wouldn't do this. Cole studied her. Why not? Because he loves me. Cole looked at the death certificate again. Then we have a problem. Claire looked up. What? If Daniel didn't do this? He pointed toward the document. Someone wanted you to believe he did. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Then her phone vibrated. An unknown number. One message. Don't trust anyone who tells you Daniel left you. Claire stared at the screen. Detective Cole noticed her expression. What does it say? She slowly turned the phone toward him. Cole read the message. His expression changed. Give me the phone. Claire handed it over. He examined the number. Then he looked at the photograph again. The room suddenly felt much colder. Someone had been planning this. And Claire had no idea how long they had been watching her. That night, the police searched the hotel. They found no sign of Daniel. No blood. No broken door. No struggle. Nothing. It was as though he had simply vanished. But Detective Cole noticed something strange. Daniel's passport was still inside the suitcase. So was his wallet. His phone was still charging. And his wedding ring was still on the dresser. A man planning to run away would normally take at least one of those things. Claire sat silently on the edge of the bed. Her wedding dress was still around her. The dress that had been meant for the happiest day of her life. Now it felt like a costume from someone else's life. Cole placed the death certificate into an evidence bag. We'll find him. Claire looked at him. And if you don't, Cole paused. Then we'll find whoever wanted you to think he left. Claire looked at the suitcase. For some reason, she couldn't stop staring at it. She had no idea yet that the suitcase would become the object that changed everything she believed about her life. The next morning, Detective Cole gave Claire the first piece of information that made the situation even worse. The death certificate was not simply a fake document created by someone with basic computer skills. It had been prepared using real medical information. Claire's blood type, her date of birth, her identification number. Even the hospital listed on the document was real. Cole placed the papers on the table. Someone had access to information that isn't publicly available. Claire stared at him. Who? We don't know yet. Could Daniel have gotten it? He could have. Claire's eyes filled with tears. But you don't think he did? Cole didn't answer immediately. I think we're missing something. He turned another page. There is something else. What? The hospital says someone contacted them about your medical records 3 weeks ago. Claire froze. 3 weeks? Yes. That was before the wedding. Cole nodded. So whoever did this was planning ahead. Claire looked toward the window. The city outside continued moving as if nothing had happened. People were going to work. Cars were driving through the streets. A woman walked past the hotel carrying flowers. Meanwhile, Claire was looking at a document saying she would be dead in 3 days. Then Detective Cole received a phone call. He listened silently. His expression hardened. What happened? He ended the call. We found something. What? Someone has already arranged your funeral. Claire stared at him. What? The funeral home has a reservation. Her mouth opened slightly. For when? 4 days from now. Claire felt the room spin. That can't be possible. Cole looked at her. It gets worse. He slid a document across the table. The funeral arrangements had been made in Claire's name. The flowers had been selected. The burial service had been scheduled. The payment had already been made. Claire covered her mouth. Someone had planned everything. Her death. Her funeral. Even the flowers. She stood abruptly. I need to call my father. Why? Because he knows everyone in this family. Claire called Richard Bennett. Her father answered immediately. Claire, Dad, where are you? At home. I need you to come to the hotel. There was a pause. What's wrong? Just come. Richard arrived 40 minutes later. He looked older than Claire remembered. The moment he saw her, he hugged her. What happened? Claire stepped away. Did you know someone arranged my funeral? Richard froze. For a second, he said nothing. Then, no. Claire studied his face. Are you sure? Yes. Then why do you look terrified? Richard looked at Detective Cole, then back at his daughter. Because there are things I should have told you years ago. Claire's heart sank. What things? Not here. Dad, my death certificate was in my fiancé's suitcase. Richard closed his eyes. Claire, tell me. Richard looked at her. Your mother was investigating something before she died. Claire went still. My mother, she believed someone was stealing money from the family trust. Who? I never found out. But you suspected someone. Richard didn't answer. Claire stepped closer. Who did you suspect? Richard whispered. People I trusted. Before Claire could ask anything else, the door opened. Michael Hayes walked into the room. Michael was Richard's longtime financial advisor. He had known Claire since she was a child. He looked concerned. Claire, I'm so sorry. Claire nodded. Thank you. Michael looked at the papers on the table. Is this about the funeral? Claire looked up. How did you know about the funeral? Michael stopped. Detective Cole noticed. I didn't say anything about a funeral. Michael hesitated. I assume. Why? I heard people talking. Who? Michael didn't answer. For the first time, Claire looked at him differently. Not as a family friend, but as a possible stranger. That afternoon, Detective Cole discovered another disturbing detail. The death certificate had been created 2 weeks before the wedding. Claire stared at him. 2 weeks? Yes. Daniel didn't know anything was wrong until a few days ago. Cole nodded. Exactly. Claire looked confused. Then Daniel couldn't have planned this from the beginning. That's what the evidence suggests. Claire looked at the document. So somebody was planning my death before Daniel even disappeared. Cole nodded. And that means his disappearance may have been a reaction to the plan. Claire's heart tightened. Daniel had known something. She just didn't know what. Then her phone vibrated. Another anonymous message. Daniel didn't leave you. A second message appeared. He was trying to warn you. Claire stared at the screen. Then a third message appeared. Ask him why he went to B17. Claire's breathing stopped. B17. The same code written on her death certificate. She looked at Detective Cole. Do you know what B17 is? Cole shook his head. No. Claire looked toward the empty doorway. For the first time, she wondered if Daniel had not disappeared because he wanted to escape from her. Maybe he had disappeared because someone was trying to find him. And if that was true, someone had been planning this long before their wedding day. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at Daniel's photograph. The man in the picture looked happy. He was smiling beside her. His hand was around her waist. It had been taken only 6 days earlier. 6 days before their wedding. 6 days before he vanished. Claire opened Daniel's laptop. She didn't know his password. Then she remembered something. Their first date. Daniel had once told her his password was connected to the date they met. She entered it. The computer opened. Claire searched through his files. Most were ordinary. Invoices, travel documents, wedding plans, photographs. Then she found a folder marked Archive. It required another password. Claire tried several combinations. Nothing. Then she noticed a small photograph beside the laptop. Her mother. Claire picked it up. She remembered that picture. Her mother had been smiling. Claire had been 5 years old. She turned the photograph over. There was handwriting on the back. If anything happens to me, look where the blue meets the 7. Claire frowned. Blue. 7. She searched Daniel's files again. This time she found a document. B17. She opened it. There were financial records, transfers, account numbers, payments. One name appeared repeatedly. Bennett Family Trust. Claire's heart began racing. She continued reading. Then she found something that made her stop. A copy of her father's will. The document stated that Claire would gain full control of a significant portion of the family trust when she turned 30. But there was another clause. If Claire died before that date, control would pass to a secondary beneficiary. Claire stared at the name. Michael Hayes, her father's trusted financial advisor. Claire immediately called Detective Cole. He arrived shortly after midnight. She showed him the document. Michael benefits if I die. Cole read the clause. That gives him motive. Claire shook her head. He's known me since I was a child. That doesn't make him innocent. Claire looked at him. Could my father have changed the will? Possibly. Claire went home the next morning. Richard was waiting. She placed the document in front of him. Why didn't you tell me? Richard looked at the will. I wanted to protect you. From what? From this. Claire's voice cracked. Someone has planned my death. Richard looked away. Your mother discovered the trust was being manipulated. By Michael. I don't know. But you suspected him. Richard said nothing. Claire's eyes filled with tears. You knew something was wrong. I knew your mother was afraid. Then why didn't you tell me? Because after she died, I was terrified they would come after you. Claire stared at him. My mother didn't die naturally, did she? Richard's silence was the answer. Claire stepped backward. What happened? Richard finally spoke. She was investigating money transfers from the family trust. And she told me she believed someone close to us was stealing money. Ooh, she never got to tell me. Claire's voice trembled. What happened to her? Her car went off the road. You said it was an accident. It was ruled an accident. That isn't what I asked. Richard looked at his daughter. I never believed it was. Claire felt tears running down her cheeks. For 24 years, she had believed her mother died in an accident. Now she was learning her father had doubted that story all along. Richard reached for her hand. I was afraid. Claire pulled away. You should have told me. I thought silence would keep you safe. Claire shook her head. Your silence didn't keep me safe. She walked out. That afternoon, Claire returned to her mother's old house. She searched the bedroom, closets, drawers, books, nothing. Then she noticed a loose panel behind an old bookshelf. She pulled it open. Inside was a small metal box. Her mother's handwriting was on the lid. B17. Claire opened it. Inside was a flash drive, several photographs, and a letter. Claire unfolded the letter. Her mother's handwriting was unmistakable. Richard believes I should stop. He is afraid. But if I am right, the money is only part of the problem. Claire's hands trembled. She continued reading. Someone has been using the trust to hide payments. I don't know who is behind it yet, but I know they have access to our private records. Claire looked at the photographs. One photograph showed her mother standing outside a financial office. Beside her was a younger Michael Hayes. Claire froze. Michael had been there, years before Claire ever suspected him. But the photograph wasn't proof of murder. It was only a connection. Then Claire saw something else. A hospital bracelet. Her mother's name was printed on it. The date was the day before her accident. Claire stared at it. Why had her mother been at the hospital? What had happened there? And why had nobody ever told Claire? Claire called Victoria. Her best friend answered. Claire, did you know my mother was investigating the family trust? Silence. Victoria? I knew something. What? I didn't know how to tell you. Claire's heart sank. What are you telling me? Victoria whispered. I accessed your medical records. Claire went completely still. Why? I was trying to find out if someone had changed them. Who asked you to? No one. Victoria, I swear. Claire's voice hardened. Why were you watching my medical records? Victoria began crying. Because I was afraid someone was going to make your death look real. Claire closed her eyes. The person she trusted most had been hiding something. Again. And suddenly, the mystery wasn't only about Daniel. It was about everyone. Claire met Victoria in a quiet cafe the next morning. Victoria looked exhausted. She hadn't slept. Claire sat across from her. Tell me everything. Victoria looked down. My family knew your mother. You said that already. No. Victoria shook her head. I mean, my family was involved. Claire's stomach tightened. Involved how? My father worked with your mother. Doing what? Managing accounts. Claire remembered the financial documents. Your father had access to the trust. Victoria nodded. And Michael? Victoria didn't answer. Claire stared at her. Victoria. He was my brother. Claire already knew that. But hearing it in this moment felt different. You're telling me Michael was involved with my mother's investigation? Yes. What did he do? I don't know everything. You know something? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. My father used to say Michael was the smartest person he knew. That doesn't answer my question. Victoria looked at Claire. After your mother died, Michael told my family to forget everything they knew. Why? He said it was safer. Claire leaned forward. Safer for who? Victoria didn't answer. Claire stood. I'm done. Victoria grabbed her hand. Claire, wait. Claire stopped. There is something else. What? Victoria swallowed. Your mother didn't die immediately. Claire turned around. What? She survived the accident. Claire's face went pale. What are you talking about? She was taken to the hospital. Then how did she die? Victoria whispered. That's what I don't know. Claire felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her. Her mother had survived the crash. Someone had taken her to a hospital. Then she died, and the records had somehow disappeared. Claire remembered the death certificate, the hospital, her mother's bracelet, the missing information. Everything seemed connected. Which hospital? Victoria gave her the name. It was the same hospital listed on Claire's fraudulent death certificate. Claire's blood ran cold. The same hospital, 24 years apart. She immediately called Detective Cole. They met at the hospital archives. Most of the old records were gone, but Claire's mother's name appeared in a handwritten admission log. Margaret Bennett, admitted after a vehicle accident. Condition, critical. Then, beside the name, transferred, B17. Claire stared at the page. What does that mean? The archivist shook his head. I don't know. Claire looked at Detective Cole. B17 isn't a storage room. Cole studied the document. No. Claire's voice trembled. It was a hospital room. They searched old floor plans. B17 was a restricted recovery section of the hospital, a private unit used for patients requiring controlled access. Claire's mother had been transferred there, but there was no discharge record, no official death record from the hospital, only the accident report. Claire realized something horrifying. Someone had removed part of the medical record. The question was no longer whether her mother's death was suspicious. It was, who had the power to erase what happened inside B17? That evening, Richard finally told Claire more of the truth. After the accident, He had been told Margaret died from complications, but he never saw the complete medical records. He never received a clear explanation of what happened inside B-17, and he had been too devastated and frightened to investigate. Why didn't you? Richard's eyes filled with tears. Because someone told me if I kept asking questions, I would lose you too. Claire stared at him. Who? Richard shook his head. I never knew. Claire left. She returned to the hotel. Her phone rang. Victoria. Claire answered. Victoria? Victoria's voice was shaking. I know who you need to be careful with. Ooh, a pause. Michael. Claire's heart stopped. What? He called me tonight. What did he say? Victoria whispered. He asked if you found B-17. Claire's eyes widened. How would he know about B-17? I don't know. What else did he say? Victoria hesitated. Then, he told me that if you found what your mother left behind, you wouldn't live long enough to use it. The call ended. Claire stared at her phone. For the first time, she wasn't simply afraid of someone. She knew someone was afraid of her. And that meant Claire had finally found something worth protecting. The location arrived at 11:47 that night. One message. An abandoned warehouse. No explanation. Claire showed it to Detective Cole. We're coming with you. They arrived just before midnight. The warehouse was dark. Claire stepped inside. Daniel? Nothing. Then a light came on. Daniel stood at the far end of the room. Claire stopped. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Claire walked toward him. She slapped him. Daniel didn't defend himself. You disappeared. I know. You left me standing in that hotel room. I know. You let everyone think you abandoned me. I know. You let me think you were dead. Daniel looked at her. I never wanted you to think that. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Then why? Daniel took a breath. Because I found the death certificate. Claire froze. When? 4 days before the wedding. Why didn't you tell me? Because someone was watching me. Ooh, I didn't know. Daniel explained. He had been investigating unusual financial transfers connected to the family trust. He discovered the B-17 code. Then he found evidence that someone had accessed Claire's medical information. He began following the trail. And then he noticed a car following him. Everywhere. One night, someone broke into his apartment. Nothing was stolen, except one folder. The folder containing his evidence. Daniel realized someone wasn't trying to rob him. They were trying to determine how much he knew. So you disappeared? Yes. Why? I thought if they believed I had left you, they would stop watching you through me. Claire stared at him. You made me believe you betrayed me. I know. You should have trusted me. Daniel lowered his eyes. You're right. Claire cried. You were trying to save me, but you never trusted me enough to let me fight beside you. Daniel's voice broke. I was afraid. Claire looked at him. Of what? Losing you. You almost lost me anyway. Daniel nodded. I know. He reached into his coat. He pulled out a folder. I found the original death certificate. Claire took it. This isn't the one from your suitcase. No. Then who made the one in your suitcase? I don't know. Claire looked at him. But I know who paid for it. Who? Daniel hesitated. Michael. Claire's stomach dropped. How do you know? I traced the payment. Daniel opened the folder. Inside were financial records. A payment had been made to a private document service. The account belonged to a company controlled by Michael. Claire stared at the page. So Michael paid for my death certificate. Daniel nodded. That doesn't necessarily mean he personally created it. Claire thought about the medical records. Then someone working with him did. That's what I believe. Claire remembered Victoria. She accessed my medical records. Daniel nodded. Why? To see if someone had altered them. Daniel looked at Claire. She may have been trying to protect you. Claire remembered Victoria's fear. The pieces were beginning to fit. Daniel continued. B-17 is the key. To what? Your mother's evidence. Claire looked at him. What evidence? Daniel hesitated. Evidence that could destroy Michael. Claire felt her pulse increase. What happened to my mother? Daniel looked away. I don't know. Claire's voice became softer. But you're close. Daniel nodded. I think Michael knows. Claire remembered Michael's face. The way he had looked at the death certificate. The way he knew about the funeral. The way he had asked Victoria about B-17. She suddenly understood. Michael wasn't reacting to the mystery. He was waiting to see how much Claire discovered. Daniel said, There's one problem. What? Michael believes the original evidence is still hidden. Claire looked at him. Then let's let him keep believing that. Daniel frowned. What are you thinking? Claire took a breath. For the first time in this entire mess, she looked directly at him. I'm going to stop running. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. You have to be careful. Claire almost smiled. That sounds familiar. Daniel lowered his head. I deserve that. You do. Then Claire became serious. Daniel, I need you to promise me something. What? No more disappearing. Daniel nodded. No more secrets. He hesitated. No more secrets. Claire extended her hand. Daniel took it. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. Claire spent the next 2 days doing something she had never done before. She stopped asking people what was true. She started testing what they said. She created a timeline. Her mother's accident. The hospital. B-17. The trust. The death certificate. The funeral. Daniel's investigation. Victoria's medical record access. Michael's financial activity. And one detail kept bothering her. Michael had known about the funeral before Detective Cole told him. That meant Michael didn't discover the funeral afterward. He knew because he was connected to the person who arranged it. Claire checked the funeral payment. The money came through a company. That company was connected to another company. That company was connected to a trust account. And the trust account was connected to Michael. The chain was indirect, carefully designed, but existed. Claire showed Detective Cole. This is enough to investigate, but not enough to prove he planned your death. I know. So what do? Claire looked at him. We give him what he wants. The B-17 evidence. Claire nodded. The evidence he believes will destroy him. Cole looked at her. What if he realizes it's fake? He won't. How do you know? Because he has spent years believing everyone around him is afraid of him. Claire paused. And people who think they're in control rarely question what they desperately want to believe. Claire created a convincing copy of the documents from B-17. She included enough real information to make the fake evidence believable. Then she deliberately allowed Victoria to know about it. Victoria was frightened. What if Michael finds out? He will. Claire looked at her. That is exactly what I need. Victoria stared at her. You're using me. Claire shook her head. No. Then what am I doing? Choosing a side. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I should have chosen yours years ago. Claire softened. You can choose now. Victoria nodded. I will. The next morning, Michael called Claire. Claire, we need to talk. About what? Your mother. Claire stayed silent. Michael continued. I know you've been investigating. How? I know your family. Claire smiled faintly. No, Michael. She looked at the recording device hidden beneath the table. You know my family because you've been controlling parts of it. Silence. Michael's voice changed. What are you talking about? Claire placed the fake B-17 documents on the table. Michael couldn't see them, but he could hear the confidence in her voice. I found everything. There was a pause. What did you find? Claire deliberately said. The hospital records. Silence. Then, where are they? Claire's eyes sharpened. There it was. The question she needed. Not, are you safe? Not, what happened? But, where are they? Michael had exposed what he cared about. Claire continued. I know what happened to my mother. Michael's breathing changed. You don't. I know she survived the crash. Silence. I know she was taken to be 17. Silence. And I know someone removed the records. Michael finally spoke. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Claire replied. I understand enough. Michael ended the call. Detective Cole looked at her. That was a mistake on his part. Claire shook her head. No. She looked at the clock. He's coming. 2 hours later, Michael entered the building where Claire had arranged to meet him. He believed he was there to recover the evidence. Instead, Detective Cole was waiting. Claire stepped from the shadows. Michael looked at her. You lied to me. Claire answered. So did you. Michael's face hardened. You have no idea what you're doing. Claire placed the real evidence on the table. Michael stared at it. His expression changed. Detective Cole stepped forward. Michael Hayes, we need to talk. Michael looked around. There was nowhere to go, but he wasn't ready to confess. Not yet. Claire sat across from him. My mother trusted you. Michael looked down. She trusted your family. She trusted you. I tried to help her. Then why did she disappear? Michael said nothing. Claire continued. Why was her medical record altered? Nothing. Why did you pay for my death certificate? Michael's eyes narrowed. I didn't. Claire placed the payment record in front of him. Your company did. Michael shook his head. You don't understand how these accounts work. Claire leaned forward, then explained them. Michael looked at Detective Cole, then at Claire, and finally, he smiled. You've always been too curious. Claire's face hardened. And you've always believed I was too trusting. Michael leaned back. Your mother made the same mistake. Claire froze. What did you say? Michael realized he had said too much. Detective Cole stepped forward. Keep talking. Michael's expression changed. The mask was beginning to disappear. But Michael still had one more card. He looked at Claire. You think finding those documents means you understand everything? I know enough. No. Michael shook his head. You know what your mother found. You know what she discovered. You don't know what happened after. Claire's heart pounded. What happened after? Michael looked at Detective Cole, then back at Claire. Your mother survived the crash. Claire's eyes filled with tears. We know. She was taken to the hospital. We know. She was transferred to B-17. We know. Michael's face hardened. But she wasn't supposed to leave. Claire went completely still. Detective Cole leaned forward. What does that mean? Michael said nothing. Claire whispered. What did you do? Michael looked at her, and for the first time, he looked afraid. Michael finally admitted what Claire had spent days trying to understand. The family trust had been manipulated for years. Money had been moved through shell companies. Payments had been hidden. Records had been altered. Claire's mother, Margaret, discovered it. She had been investigating the accounts for months. She found evidence connecting the missing money to companies controlled indirectly by Michael. She planned to expose everything. Michael tried to convince her to stop. She refused. Then came the accident. Margaret's car went off the road, but she survived. Barely. She was taken to the hospital and transferred to B-17. Claire listened, barely breathing. What happened there? Michael looked down. Your mother had the evidence, and she refused to give it to me. So you threatened her? I wanted the evidence. That isn't an answer. Michael closed his eyes. I confronted her. What happened? We argued. Claire's voice trembled. And then she collapsed. The room became silent. You're saying she died because of a medical crisis? Michael nodded. She had suffered serious injuries in the crash. Claire stared at him. But you didn't call for help. Michael said nothing. Claire understood. You let her die. Michael looked away. I panicked. And then I knew what would happen if the truth came out. So you covered up. Michael didn't answer. Detective Cole spoke. You altered the hospital records. Michael remained silent. You removed the evidence. Silence. You used your connections to make her death appear to be a complication from the accident. Michael's eyes closed. Yes. Claire's tears finally fell. My mother was alive. Michael nodded. For a while. And you let everyone believe she died in the accident. Yes. Claire looked at him. Why? Because I had too much to lose. Claire shook her head. You had everything. Michael looked at her. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Claire stood. You chose money over her. Michael looked down. I chose survival. Claire's voice became cold. And then you spent 24 years making sure nobody could prove what you did. Michael didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say. But Claire wasn't finished. She placed another document on the table. There's something else. Michael looked at it. A hospital employee's statement. The employee remembered seeing Michael enter B-17 the night Margaret died. Michael's face went pale. You see, Claire said quietly, you didn't expect anyone to remember. Michael looked at her. You don't know what happened. Then tell me. Michael stared at the document. Then he looked at Detective Cole. Finally, he whispered, your mother had the evidence. And she refused to give it to me. So you threatened her? No. Then what happened? Michael closed his eyes. She died. Claire's voice shook. And you covered it up. Michael said nothing. That silence was enough. Detective Cole stood. Michael Hayes, you're under arrest. The handcuffs closed around his wrists. For the first time in 24 years, the secret was no longer buried. But justice didn't erase everything. Richard had to admit that he had spent years hiding his suspicions. He had known Margaret's death didn't make sense. He had suspected something had happened inside the hospital, but fear had silenced him. Victoria had to admit that she had protected her family instead of telling Claire the truth. She had accessed Claire's medical records without permission. She had watched Claire from a distance. She had known Michael was dangerous, and she had waited too long to speak. Claire didn't forgive everyone immediately. She didn't pretend nothing had happened. Some wounds were too deep for one conversation. Some trust had to be rebuilt slowly. Daniel waited outside the police station. Claire walked toward him. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Daniel said, "I should have trusted you." Claire looked at him. "Yes, I thought I could protect you." "You did." Daniel looked surprised. "But," Claire took a breath, "but you also hurt me." Daniel nodded. "I know. I can't pretend that didn't happen." "I know. I can't pretend that didn't happen. I don't want you to." Claire looked at him. "What happens now?" Daniel smiled sadly. "Whatever you want." Claire thought about the hotel room, the suitcase, the death certificate, the photograph, the woman she had been when this nightmare began. Then she looked at Daniel. "I forgive you." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "But forgiveness doesn't mean we forget." "I know. It means we learn." Daniel nodded. Claire took his hand. "If we're going to build a life together," she looked directly into his eyes, "we build it with the truth." Daniel squeezed her hand. Together. 3 days later, Claire returned to the hotel. The same room, the same window, the same bed, the same suitcase. She stood beside it for several seconds. Then she opened it. The death certificate was gone. The photograph was gone. The documents were gone. Only one envelope remained. Claire opened it. A letter from Daniel. She read it slowly. He wrote about the first moment he realized she was in danger. He wrote about the fear he felt. He wrote about the terrible decision to disappear. And he wrote one final sentence. "I knew you were strong enough to survive the truth. I was wrong to believe you weren't strong enough to face it with me." Claire folded the letter. She looked at the suitcase. Then she noticed something, a small mark inside the lining. B-17. Claire smiled. She finally understood. Daniel hadn't simply left a death certificate behind. He had left a trail. The suitcase had been the beginning of the trail. The death certificate had led her to the photograph. The photograph had led her to questions. The questions had led her to B-17. B-17 had led her to her mother's evidence. And the evidence had led her to the truth. Daniel had never intended for the suitcase to be a final message. It had been the first piece of a path. But Claire also understood something else. Daniel's intentions didn't make his decision right. He had loved her. He had tried to protect her. But love without trust had almost destroyed the very person he was trying to save. Claire closed the suitcase. The door opened. Daniel stood there. Claire smiled. He walked toward her. Neither of them spoke. Then Claire said, "Next time you try to save me." Daniel smiled. "Don't leave you behind." Claire nodded. "Exactly." He took her hand. They walked toward the door together. Claire stopped once more. She looked back at the suitcase. The object that had terrified her. The object that had changed her life. The object that had carried a death certificate with her name on it. She closed the door and walked away. Final narration. On her wedding day, Claire Bennett discovered a death certificate with her name on it. She thought someone had planned her death. She was right. She thought her fiancé had abandoned her. She was wrong. She thought the people closest to her would protect her. Some did. Some failed her. And some betrayed her. But in the end, Claire learned something more important than who wanted her dead. She learned that secrets don't disappear simply because people hide them. They wait. They grow. And eventually, they demand to be confronted. Sometimes the truth destroys the life we thought we had. But sometimes, it gives us the chance to build a better one. Claire lost the certainty she once had about the people around her. She lost the illusion that love alone could protect her. She learned that family could keep secrets. Friends could become afraid. And even the person who loved her most could make the wrong choice while trying to save her. But she also discovered something stronger. She discovered her own courage. She stopped waiting for someone else to save her. She stopped allowing other people to decide what she could handle. And when the person responsible finally came for the evidence, Claire was ready, because the woman who opened that suitcase at the beginning of the story was not the same woman who closed it at the end. At the beginning, Claire was a bride waiting for her future to begin. At the end, she was a woman who had taken control of her own life. In that suitcase, it no longer represented death. It represented the moment Claire finally began asking questions. The moment she stopped trusting blindly. The moment she discovered the truth. The moment she survived. On her wedding day, Claire thought the suitcase contained the date of her death. She was wrong. It contained the trail that led her to the truth. And ultimately, the reason she survived. Because, sometimes, the thing that frightens us the most is not the end of our story. Sometimes, it is the beginning of the truth. And, sometimes, the people who think they are burying our future are only giving us the reason to fight for it. Claire walked into the morning light. For the first time, Claire knew she didn't have to be afraid of the secrets behind her. She knew the truth could hurt. She knew people could betray her. She knew even the people she loved could make terrible choices. But she also knew something she hadn't known before. She could face it. She could question it. She could survive it. Just as importantly, she could choose what came next. And this time, her future belonged to her. If this story resonated with you, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to join the MindShadow Stories community. Every like, comment, and subscription helps us grow and continue sharing unforgettable stories of love, betrayal, redemption, second chances, and so much more. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story. Every shadow holds a lesson. This is MindShadow Stories.
Every shadow holds a lesson. Thanks for watching MindShadow Stories. Subscribe for more unforgettable mysteries.